Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Health Over Leadership, where we discuss everything health and leadership and how that affects your organization. I am your host, Dr. Lastasia Williams. I hope everyone is doing well today. I'm excited to begin this episode because it's a topic that oftentimes people discuss, and it's one of those that we understand it, but we don't understand it. I was having a conversation the other day with several people, and we were discussing emotional intelligence. And we kind of came to the realization that many people really, really, and truly have not mastered the art of emotional intelligence. Well, let's kind of back that up. Some people don't understand what emotional intelligence is, and that's pretty much it's this skill that I believe it's critical in in our everyday lives, but it's really critical when you are a leader, to understand and it the what it entails, and it just kind of enables an individual to recognize and understand and how to manage their own emotions. And that is one thing that is missing, that I see a lot of times, uh, coming from the educational sector. I see a lot of times that is missing, that people just don't know how to effectively regulate and manage their own emotions. And a lot of times it comes from a deep place that we really don't understand. And as a leader, being able to regulate those emotions and understand those emotions, that is a skill that we should practice on a daily. I say that we should practice on a daily because it's not something that you just get and you say, okay, I've mastered that skill, so what's next? No, being able to regulate your emotions and just have a high emotional intelligence, that requires daily practice. I don't know how many times I've been in situations, and I consider my emotional intelligence to be, on point most times, but sometimes you get that person who will push your button, and or a situation that may push your button. And so I find myself thinking, oh wow, I just let that get the best of me. But for me, regulating my emotional intelligence, it's not easy, but it takes practice. Oh my gosh, it takes so much practice to regulate that, and just to understand how you are as an individual. So that requires a lot of personal soul searching. It requires a lot of personal development, and we'll probably discuss personal development on another podcast for leadership, because a lot of times we don't realize that that goes into being able to recognize those things within us that kind of make us tick, those things around us that makes us tick. So in leadership, very important on understanding first off what emotional intelligence is. Once we understand that, then we can make that shift to begin our own soul searching on how we regulate or manage and even understand our own emotions. Having this high level of emotional intelligence it plays a really big significant role on how the health or the dynamics of our organization is shaped. I can't tell you how many times I've seen places where I'm looking at the leader, or I've experienced it firsthand. I'm looking and saying, "Oh my gosh, what happened to them in life that they're this age and they can't regulate their emotions, everything. They're on 10 all the time. Oh my gosh!" And so when you have this leader who's on 10 all the time, what happens? The department or the organization, they're on 10 most of the time. Everybody's anxiety level is high because they don't know what's going to take place. And so having this high level of emotional intelligence, you help to shape how your organization runs, how your department is run. And you don't want to allow your emotions to get the best of you. And so when as a leader, when you're able to create this environment that has uh, um, where you have this high level of emotional intelligence, then the environment around you, it most of those who you are leading, they trust. They have this trust factor that they're able to come in and collaborate with others. They're able to be vulnerable to those that are around them because there's this environment that's created that they feel as if they're able to do these things, which that allows for employment engagement, and you increase the productivity that's happening in your department. You increase the productivity that's happening in your organization, and that is the bottom line. We want positive productivity. We want our employees to have a high engagement. But if our emotional intelligence is not in a place where it's creating that type of environment, then it's very difficult to have our employees function at this level. And so we don't want, well, I don't want my level of emotional intelligence to have a negative impact on the health of my organization. I don't want it to have a negative impact on the health of my employees. And I surely don't want it to have a negative impact on how I lead as a leader. Think about it. You have that leader, or you have that individual in your department, and their emotion, they're very, very, very emotional. So all of their decisions are driven based on high emotions, and nobody steps back to say, you know what, hold on, let me take my emotions out of this so I can think clearly, so that the decisions I make are one that it's sound. It's not just built on how I feel, but the decisions I make, they're built on what is best for everyone that's involved. And so, what impact are you making on your organization? Step back and think about it. What impact are you making on your department? Is your emotional intelligence at a level where you are making a positive impact? Or is your emotional intelligence causing you to have a negative impact? Many times we see we feel when there's a negative impact in a department. You hate getting up. You like, I don't want to go in today. As a leader, how do you address this? Being able to step back and take our ego out of situations to where we can look and see, how am I as the leader impacting my organization? Is there a way to, if you're one of those leaders who you have a high level of emotional intelligence, the question is there a way to teach that to your employees? If you notice that you have an employee in your department who who's very emotional, and you know by looking and observing, and you're saying, you know what, ooh, they're affecting my bottom line, they're affecting the department, they're affecting the climate of everyone in here. How do you address that? How can you shape the emotional intelligence of other people? Which is really hard because we're all humans and we have these things in our lives that helps to shape how we are. And so once you get older, the older and older you get, there's things that people will say, you know what, I'm just set in my ways. But I I I wonder many times, is that just a cop out for not wanting to change or not knowing how to change? And so as a leader, we must take the time to say, okay, I have to address this, especially if we are leaders where our emotional intelligence is at a high level. Now, if we are one of those leaders that our emotional intelligence is just as bad as everyone else around us, ooh, there's a big problem. So now you are faced with the issue of an entire department, an entire business sector, and an entire school district, entire college, whatever the case may be. Now you're faced with, ooh, everybody is emotional. Now, don't get me wrong, emotions play a part in everything that we do on a daily basis. I'm not saying that we're walking around like robots and we don't have emotions and we don't have feelings, and we are just not. But I am saying there comes a time when we must recognize our own emotions. We must understand our emotions, and we have to manage our own emotions. And that's every single day. And I will continue to press that this is something that we work on daily. We can't just read a book or do a PD like most places. You know, you have the professional development for your organization and you're doing PDs. Oh, today's PD is on emotional intelligence. And you go through these scenarios, you go through little activities with the group, and then you go on to the next PD for the next month or 2 months or however often that you have professional development. But emotional intelligence is something that you work on daily. So we, as leaders, if we want to be effective leaders, and if we want to address the health of not only ourselves or our organizations, we must put this into daily practice. We must make this a part of our personal development. Because as leaders, well, not even as leaders, everyone should have those two: professional development and personal development. Sometimes I'll probably venture out and be like, I can tell how much personal development you're doing by how you act when you come into the office. Because personal development allows you to see those things within yourself that you were previously blind to or that you just ignored. And if you're doing personal development correctly, then you're able to evolve and manage everything that's going on within you. Because I'm a firm believer that what's in you will come out of you. So if you're a leader or an employee that you're negative, you're petty, You're angry all the time, or you just flat out mean. Those things are within you, so they're showing up externally. So what's internal will show up external. How much professional or how much personal development are you doing in your life? How often are you participating in personal development? Because I believe that's one thing that helps us to manage, recognize, and control our emotional being and have a positive impact. So when we're thinking about emotional intelligence, what makes a leader with a high emotional intelligence or sound emotional intelligence beneficial to that organization? Well, I believe those that have this high level of emotional intelligence, they have effective communication. The communication that they put out for those who are following them, they they are clear in their communication efforts. They have, and we talked about this in the previous podcast, their empathy. They're leading with empathy. That if affects the communication and how effective it is. They're authentic. When I have a high level of emotional intelligence, I can have this effective communication to my team, and everybody benefits from it. When you have a leader who has a high level of emotional intelligence, the conflict resolution is, to me, seems a little bit different, because now you're in a place where you are doing more of, let's kind of, let's sit back and let's navigate what's going on. Let's see, let conflict resolution, and that's a plays a big part in how your team runs. Now if you're one where you have a leader who has a mentor who gasses them up, and then consequently that leader goes and how they handle conflict within their team, it shows. That's a part of their level of emotional intelligence. And also decision making. Our level of emotional intelligence affects our decision making. How thought out, or how much thought that we put into our decision making. Is it rational? Do we make these decisions that are not rational at all, and it has a lot of our emotions in our decisions? Because if so, that determines, or that shows our level of intelligence, emotional intelligence. When making decisions, as I mentioned before, we have to step back and pull our emotions from it and make the decision that is best for everyone involved. Now, how can we increase our emotional intelligence? If you're sitting and you're listening, and you're thinking about this, you're probably wondering, okay, well, maybe my emotional intelligence is not where it needs to be. How can I increase my emotional intelligence? Well, the first thing is being self-aware. Knowing yourself, knowing your own emotions, what triggers you. How does that affect your behavior? You have to have this level of self-awareness if you want to increase your emotional intelligence. Are you practicing mindfulness? Coming from the educational sector, many times, well, when it first began, there's this thing called mindfulness, and everybody was big on mindfulness and teaching the the students mindfulness and what that entails. And sometimes I would step back and I'm like, I don't really think that they know what this is, because their emotional intelligence is still in the same place and it's not good. And it had nothing to do with the students. It was most of the time the people who were teaching the students. It was the parents. So we look at this and say, hey, am I practicing mindfulness? I like to journal. That helps me to kind of navigate my emotions, navigate what happened during the day. And sometimes when I allow someone to take me to this place of, I know that I probably shouldn't have said something. I know right away that I'm like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have done that. My behavior wasn't that wasn't good. I know right away. How can I understand that and notice it right away? Is because I, I have a kind of high level of emotional intelligence. And so being self-aware, I can't say it enough, but practicing empathy. Try to listen to other people. Try to step into their place, their being, and see the situation or what's happening from their perspective. Take yourself out of the equation just for a moment, so that way empathy can take over and you're able to see other people not with your eyes but with your heart, which is so important when you're leading humans. Many times as leaders, we get so consumed with making things happen and going about our day to make sure that our team is functioning and doing what it needs to do, that a lot of times we take the human nature out of leadership. People just want us to validate their feelings. They just want to be heard. They want and and heard in a manner that where you're not just listening so that you can respond to the individual, but you're listening to understand and feel what they're saying. Another way you can increase your emotional intelligence is about self-regulation. How do you manage your stress? How do you regulate your emotions? How do you respond in a calm manner in emergency situations? You must develop certain strategies on how to manage those things. Now that's going to look different from everyone. Um, there's lots of books out there that tells you, oh, you need to do this for your stress level. You need to do that. But I believe it looks different for everyone. It's not a one size fits all. And let's be honest, when we get those uh, hats that say one size fits all, or the shirts that say, or dresses that say one size fits all, most of the time now they've changed it to one size fits most, because we understand that everyone is not shaped the same, everyone is not built the same. And that's the same thing when you go and you're looking at managing stress, regulating your emotions. What works for you? What works for your mentor may not work for you. You can pull some things from it, but being self aware allows you to know that, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. So, in order for me to self regulate, I need to know what works for me and not the person next to me. Because if I work on me and the person next to me works on them, our team can grow and flourish. If I work on me as the leader and not worry about everything else, everyone else, I'm able to have this positive impact on my team. So that's how I believe that you can increase your emotional intelligence. You're self aware, you're practicing empathy, and you know how to self regulate. Emotional intelligence plays a big part in how we lead, it plays a big part in how productive our teams are. If you want a productive team, if you want an environment for your team that is one where they come in and they feel safe, then think about your emotional intelligence. Do you have a high level of emotional intelligence, or is your emotional intelligence in a place where people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready to be done with them that I don't care where I go work. I don't want to be in that place. I want my team to feel as if they're wanted and needed and not just someone who's going to help me get to what I need. Think about those things this week. And until next time, stay healthy.